Well, so I'm going to call on one of our team captains because I asked him if he might make just a few remarks tonight. And I think Noah, you and Sherm, I know have also done some stuff with career development, but just we are recording it. And this session tonight, we're going to talk about really some job strategy tips, how to navigate the virtual world, some resume tips, and we'll have a breakout room, and JP will do 2 sessions there, and I'm going to stay in this room and do 2 sessions here. But Sub, if you want to start with some remarks and then we'll break into the rooms, that would be awesome.
I would recommend or advise, every athlete here at App State to use this resource, this great resource of the Career Development Center. Unfortunately for me, I didn't start using it till, my senior year, but that's why I think it's so important to let everyone know that it's actually a real great resource, for prepping for interviews and giving you opportunities to get interviewed. Susan, you helped me with a couple businesses, and getting my name out there, my resume, helping me out with my resume, and you too, Jennifer, just working with me and being patient with me, and always being available. Availability is a big thing, especially with us athletes. Our schedules are very restricted and time limited. So, having a resource that, works around our availability is also a plus. And I just recommend every athlete to take advantage of it to get ourselves ready for life after our athletic careers end.
Well, thank you. And we know y'all are super busy. And I think, as you mentioned, flexibility is real important. In fact, before we started tonight, Pierre and JP and I were talking about how, while we would not wish this pandemic on us again, there are a lot of silver linings. And one of those is the ability to do these things by Zoom so that, I know what y'all's schedule is like. I'm an early bird and I see the cars go into the field house at 5:30 in the morning to lift weights. So I know y'all are out there, and then by this time of the night, you're really tired. So the opportunity to pop on Zoom or to be able to access this on YouTube is a real benefit that we could have done before COVID, but we didn't. But now we're doing it, and so hopefully you will access it. So what we're going to do now, thank you very much, Elijah, for that. Now what we're going to do is we have a breakout room, and before I do that, I just want this first slide that I just want to show gives you an overview of all the different things that we do in the Career Development Center. And I think most people who are on here tonight or who will see this know that we really work with students from career exploration to figuring out how are you going to negotiate a salary. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And so this next slide gives you an idea of what we're going to do in the different breakout rooms. And since we have few participants tonight, we were thinking we would come back together at 7:58, but we probably can just stay in our rooms and do our recordings. And Mr. Reeves, since you have been with us, I think you did my session before. If you want to stick with me and add in, that would be great. Or if you want to go with JP and do resume prep and career prep, that would be awesome too. And so we'll go ahead and break out. We'll record each of these. And so students, when you get these links, you'll actually have 2 YouTube links. One will be the main room and the other one will be the breakout room. Does that work for you, JP and Pierre?
That sounds great. So I'm going to pop into the other room. If anybody wants to listen to me talking to the void, please join me. But I am really excited. It is sometimes hard to do these presentations via Zoom, but this is going to be fun tonight because we always have fun. So it'll be good. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit.
Okay. All right. And Matt, I think we are good if you want to sign off. I think we're both recording. I don't know if you want to check in with the breakout room, but I feel like I'm good. Okay. All right. Awesome. So Sherm, are you staying with me?
Yes.
All right. Tell me, what is your major? You're a
I'm a
senior too.
yeah. I graduate this December.
Oh,
I'm a
you're
double major.
okay.
Yeah, I'm a double major, business marketing and business management.
Okay. And have you been interviewing too and doing job search stuff? I know you've been working on your resume.
Yeah, Miss Perry helped me finish my resume actually, and I've been talking with Doug, our athletic director, and he been putting me, in the door with a bunch of people, different resources and stuff like that, because I'm trying to get into like sales.
Oh, okay. Well, I just got one of my neighbors and his company's name. I'll have to, I'll look it up here on my phone so I don't have to switch the thing. But he works with a company, in dress. I have no idea, but they're hiring 40 entry-level salespeople that they need to hire in the Southeast. And they've never
Okay.
recruited on campus. So we just connected with him today. And
Okay.
also, I had a conversation with Fidelity today, and they are hiring what they call what do they call it? Customer service advocates, people to help folks with their financial planning. And so I'll point some of those things out there to you as we go along. So, and we have another
All
person who
right.
just joined us. So we're glad you're here. I don't know all y'all's nicknames. So anyway, so the first one we're going to do is job search in a virtual world, and really how to sort of prepare yourself and set yourself apart. So the first thing I would say is that if you've not spent any time on the Career Development Center website, that you definitely do that. That's where we post all of our events. And you probably, because you made appointments with JP or you've made appointments with me or someone else, you already have a Handshake account. And I cannot overemphasize how important that Handshake account is. You have a chance in Handshake to establish your profile. And your profile is considered complete when you have your education in there. And if you're graduating this year or even next year, you can just go ahead and put, Appalachian State University double major, December 2020, May 2021. At this point, you're in a good place and you're going to graduate. So you can go ahead and do that. So you want to have your education, you want to have your experience, and your experience could be work experience. It can be internship experience. It could be a part-time job, and then your activities and organizations. And obviously, being a student athlete is a huge part of your college experience, and that is something that you want to put in your Handshake profile. One thing that I did not put on here, and I actually am going to do a quick screen switch for y'all, because we just updated our website and we now have a whole section, a whole page for resources for student athletes. And if you haven't been here, then I really encourage you to go. So down here, we talk about, again, how to do your job searches and your internship, but there are some specific resources the NCAA has for you, as well as another NACDA, which I am not familiar with, but these are specific resources for student athletes. And then some more information about the life skills program that Pierre does, and then some of the meetups that we've done. And again, these resources that I'm mentioning here tonight. So really encourage you to check that out and let us know what we're missing. And Nolan, I would love any feedback from you on that. Big Interview is another place where you can spend some time. It's a little more interactive than practicing an interview and doing a selfie video in the comfort of your own apartment. But you can go in there. And so, for instance, Sherm, you're interested in sales, you can select sample questions that would be asked of me if I'm applying for a sales position. So definitely spend some time at careers.appstate.edu. And then the Career Readiness Handbook is a PDF, and it's sort of, I think the best part about that is it has great resources for how to write your resume. So the other piece, I was mentioning Handshake, and I would also say also LinkedIn in terms of your profile. The better you can curate, the better you can build a positive online presence, you're basically doing the work. Companies, recruiters, they spend a ton of money on data. Just like when you are in, I don't know, I know y'all aren't really on Facebook, but I guess on Instagram and an ad pops up. Well, that's because the data tells that company that you're interested in their product. So you think of yourself as the product, and the more information you put out in the public domain on LinkedIn and Handshake about your skills, the areas of interest, the types of jobs that you want, the more searches that you do that are targeted to certain associations, the more you're going to have people reaching out to you, employers reaching out to you and sending you information. I was on a call today with Fidelity. They are a huge investment company. They are seriously increasing the number of people they need to hire for IT. They don't need so much financial planners right now, but they definitely need a lot of people to do customer service. They are having an increase in people calling about their own investments, their own portfolios, and they need people to help with IT. And Erica, who is our contact in Durham, she said, we're not going to really be coming to campuses. We're going to be targeting our marketing and our programming through webinars, and they'll be using things like LinkedIn and Handshake to announce the types of programs that they have where students can learn about jobs. So I can't tell you how important that online presence is. But I also would say don't negate, and Sherm, you mentioned it earlier, don't negate the people who are around you. I think the other thing I would say is don't underestimate or don't overinflate people's positions to connect you. Every single person in your life is a potential network and connection to opportunity. It might be somebody from your church whose grandson is the CEO of some company that you never knew. It might be somebody who's like a member of the board of trustees, like Mr. Reeves. It could be somebody who's in the Yosef Club. And definitely don't forget the people who are in your departments, but continue to build that network that you have. The other thing, as I mentioned around LinkedIn, that is a great way to connect with alumni from Appalachian. And I think we have about 120,000 living alumni. I know for me, when I have gone to conferences in different cities, and I want to connect with employers in those cities, I'll I know a lot of alums because I've been here, I went to school here, I've been around for a long time, but I don't know all 120,000, but I'll get on my LinkedIn page and look at who first and second connections are in, say, Nashville or Atlanta, to think about who I might want to connect with while I'm there. And you should definitely do the same thing. Y'all know how much Appalachian, being an alum, being a student at Appalachian is a really unique, special thing. And I can pretty much guarantee you that at least 7 out of 10 times, if not 8 out of 10 times, when you reach out to an alum on LinkedIn, they're going to respond back to you. So that's a way to build your network. And don't be shy to say that you're interested in a job in their city, or you're thinking about relocating there, or you really want to be there. What opportunities do they know about? So when we talk about your online presence, I want to talk about it sort of in 2 ways. One, how you present yourself just through like a presentation like this. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was curious. I'm pretty active in civic minded and engagement, and there were 2 candidates for a state position. And one of them I was pretty much leaning towards voting for, but I was interested in the other one. So I got on this online sort of forum that they had. Well, one of the candidates, and I'm not nearly as good posture as this candidate had, but one of the candidates had she had her shoulders facing the computer screen, her eyes were at the camera, her backdrop was her campaign sign, but it wasn't too flashy. It looked very professional. This person was dressed in a suit and they were sitting with really great posture. The other candidate, if I can kind of, if y'all can hang with me for a minute. The other candidate had the screen, they had the computer, their laptop down in their lap. There was a shadow on their face. They had an angle. So really all I saw was their chin. They had their computer in like an extra room where there were all these things, all these personal things on the wall that were somewhat distracting. For me, that really gave me an image that that person wasn't as polished and as professional as the other candidate. So if you can look at how you look on Zoom before you ever share it with anyone else. One of the things that we've just recently put on our website are some virtual backgrounds, and you can also go to University Communication and you can download some virtual backgrounds. The one I have tonight is actually an image I took from the window of my office on a beautiful morning a couple of weeks ago. So thinking about just how you come across on that screen is really, really important. Think about also your distractions. Like I forgot to turn my phone off and it just went off. When you are in a conversation, whether it's an interview or even like a meeting with one of us, I mean, not to brag, but I have a ton of connections. And if I think that there's somebody I can connect you with, and I feel like we've had a meeting where you've been super engaged and you're really focused and you're really wanting to do this work, I'm going to be far more likely to want to help you and to connect you with some of the people in my network than if I feel like you're not really connected and we're not having a real genuine authentic relationship conversation. So in order to maximize your connections, you really want to be super engaged. The other thing, sort of before we get to social media, is voicemail. Someone recently said, well, I tried to call so-and-so, but they don't have voicemail set up. And I think often that many of our college age students, y'all don't use voicemail. But when someone's calling to set up an interview with you or wants to call you about an opportunity, they're more likely, if they're my age or over 35, they're more likely to call you than to send you a text message. So make sure you have your voicemail set up. And then social media. And this is a hard one because it's, there's a lot out there. Some companies will tell you right off the bat that they're going to do a search on social media. They're going to look at your Instagram. They're going to look at, Snapchat, not so much, TikTok, Facebook, anywhere where you could be, Vine. They're going to look out there and see what they could find out about you. Think about what does your social media say about you? Does it represent the best part of yourself, or does it represent some of the parts of yourself that you really are not feeling great about? And it's hard. It's hard these days to not be quick to jump in on things, but just be really mindful and use the type of discipline that you use on the field to be successful as a student athlete. Take that same type of discipline and apply it to your social media. back in August, the first one of these that we did, we had a couple of employers talk about why they want to hire student athletes. And I kind of want to come back to that theme, that even if you have not had a lot of work experience or an internship, think about these transferable skills that you have because you are a student athlete. You have to collaborate. You've got people on your team who come from different backgrounds. They have different values. They have had different experiences, but y'all have to figure out what your common goal is and you work towards that. You have to communicate. Professionalism, if you've been chosen as the captain or a leader of your team, you've been chosen because you exhibit that professionalism. So when you think about how you present yourself, especially in a virtual world, you want to think about using these types of words. Intercultural fluency, again, the difference and the variety of people and personalities that you have on your team. And critical thinking, problem solving is always the #1 skill, always, hands down, that employers say they want to see. You got to be a fast thinker when you just lost your receiver and you don't know what to do with the ball. You've got to figure that out. So those are ways that you can think about your experience as a student athlete and translate that to your career and your job goals. Resume, I know y'all have probably worked on this, and we're not going to berate this because JP is doing this right now. But for your resume, and especially in a virtual world, you want it to be kind of plain Jane, I guess is the best way to describe it. I have seen some resumes that look like a political sign. They look like they belong out on the side of the road. You want your resume to stand out because it's professional, it's concise, it doesn't have any grammatical errors, and it is very clear what your experiences have been. You don't want your resume to stand out because it's red, white, and blue and it has stars on it, or it is more of a graphic design. Now, if you're a graphic design student, that may be a little different. But thinking about most of us, we are in the liberal arts, we're in business, we're in the sciences. You want it to be very plain. We also had a call recently with some other employers, and there was a woman, I can't remember which company she was with now, but for instance, I was hearing today from Fidelity, they have had 14,000 applications for some of the positions they have open. They're looking for resumes that speak specifically to experiences, transferable skills, and education. They're not looking for 4 or 5 pages of fluff. They want the meat on the bone. And this is what this other employer was saying. She said, we're looking at things now in a virtual environment. We're getting so many resumes because the job market is pretty competitive. So you want your resume to stand out because of its clarity, not because of its floweriness, I guess is a word to put there. So that's what I have that I wanted to share today about sort of standing out in the virtual environment. And we'll go on to the next presentation, which is more around salary negotiation and kind of figuring out benefits. But let me stop there and see what questions y'all have. And Nolan and JK, if there are things that you would like to add that you feel are important in this sort of thinking about the virtual presence, please share those.
Yeah, I'll go, Susan. I think you're dead on in terms of that resume. You know, of course, you want to get it proofed, you know, by your professors, by the Career Center. You know, I mean, there's no reason to have a typo on a resume with all the resources we have, especially with AI, you know, those resources. But Susan, I just can't say enough about your department and what you all do. I'll be honest with you, I lived in the Career Center my last 2 semesters on campus. and I did mock interviews. I got a lot of advice. I met a lot of potential employers. I got a lot of practice interviewing. Now, I'll be first to admit, the first couple of interviews, I didn't do so well just because it was so new. But as I practice, it's just like football. The more times, you go against that receiver, Sherm, in practice, the better off you're going to be. So by game time, you'll be ready to get some pass breakups just because you've done those reps. So the same thing with the Career Center. You just go through those reps. You sit down with Susan. Hey, Susan, I had a tough interview. He asked me about, the stock price of our company this morning. I didn't know it. Well, the next time you'll know that stock price because you've actually practiced. You've gone through it. So I just can't say enough about this resource. And I'll be willing to bet, Susan, that your department is one of the most underutilized resources that is used on campus because people don't take advantage of it. When I was playing ball, my roommate, how many times he went to the Career Center? 0. And so once he left campus, he didn't have a job. He had to go out there and search on his own. I was like, heck, by the time I left campus, I was placed in a job because of the Career Center, because I was going on those interviews. So if you guys, and I know this is recorded, if you guys are not going to the Career Center and you're just playing football, you are out of your mind. Go to the Career Center, get prepared. So when you leave Appalachian, you'll have something to lean on.
Well, I was just like your roommate. My first job fair was as the director of the Career Development Center. I spent my last semester, Sherm, I was a December grad. I cried from like the middle of October until the end of the semester. I had no idea what I was going to do. And I went to school at Carolina. And so I decided to move to Boone and figure out what I would do. And this is where I am. So, but yeah, really and truly, we are probably one of the most underutilized on every campus, but there's nothing I love to do more than help people figure out what it is that their first step is going to be when they leave Appalachian, and to help you think about what your dreams are and how do you make them happen. And it happens your whole life. It doesn't happen just when you're 22. So thanks for the endorsement. Well, any other questions or comments, or we'll jump on to the next section. Okay, this is show me the money part. Okay, so that's our slide. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what are benefits, and there are some parts about this that I feel like I'm really good at in practice, and other parts that I'm probably better at in theory. So first of all, your salary and what you're offered when you are given a job, a job offer, your salary is just one part of the package. If it's not one part of the package, if it's the only thing, then you probably need to keep looking, because you need to have more than just, just here's like an hourly wage. So the first thing that you want to know is the salary that you're being offered, what's the benchmark? Is it appropriate for an entry-level position, say in a sales job? Is it appropriate if you were, say, an English major and you were going to be working with a publishing house? Is it appropriate for a starting salary with a publishing house in New York City? That's going to be real different than working with a publishing house in Raleigh, North Carolina. So there are lots of ways to benchmark your salary. There are lots of websites that are out there. And we also have, through NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers, we have basic benchmark for starting salary positions with pretty much every position in the country. Is the salary worthy of your knowledge and skills? And if you're a recent college graduate, you are generally a recent college graduate who hasn't had 5 or 6 years of experience working in the professional world. Now, that could be different if you are a veteran, if you are more of a non-traditional student, if you have worked full time. And in many ways, you have worked full time because you have been a full-time student athlete, and that is a 60 to 70 hour a week job. But is that aligned? Is that directly related to the position that you've been offered? So that's sort of, again, kind of a reality check. We've talked about the local market. The other thing I think is salary is also sometimes there is just not negotiable. Like in North Carolina, starting teachers who have a college degree and who are up for licensure, everyone has the same eligibility and everybody starts at the same place. So you have to think about that. Do you have all the pieces of the puzzle to be like a CPA? You're not gonna, right out of college, you haven't already set for your exam. So you're gonna have to earn that CPA licensure. And hopefully that's one of the benefits. I would think any accounting firm is going to give you time and support to be able to sit for that exam. One of the other things you want to know about is, so for instance, today talking to Fidelity, they were telling us about these customer advocate positions, customer service advocates. And Erica said, these positions are designed for people to be in for 12 to 14 months. These are not positions. If you're in that position for more than a year and a half, then you're probably not going anywhere with that company. These are positions that are established to give you a head start and then allow you the opportunity to go into different departments or to go up for promotion. So you want to find out about that. You want to know if this is a commission job or a salary job. And another thing that's really important when you evaluate your salary is, are you going to have opportunity for career development programs? Are there, like many of our Fortune 500 companies, our larger employers, Fidelity, Enterprise, E&J Gallo, they have a management trainee program. Everybody comes in together. You come in a cohort, which is a really cool thing because you're going to build community. Sure, you're competing, but it's also like a team. You're working together and you're going to have a group of people that hopefully you will be able to grow into the company with. But I think the most important thing, more important than the money for most of us, is this organization, is this an employer, a place where I'm going to feel like I can be a part of it? Am I going to be a contributing member, and will my contributions be valued? Is this a place where I'm going to thrive, or is this a place where I'm going to get up every morning and go, oh my gosh, I have to go sit in on Zoom for 8 hours? And that's no fun. You don't want to do that. So in addition to salary, we talk about benefits. And so this is a list, and I don't know if my screen is totally open for everybody, but this is a list of most common benefits. Obviously, holidays, vacation, and sick days. Medical, dental, and vision insurance, and hopefully and certainly your employer should be covering or giving you some type of health HSA type plan. Ideally, they're going to be covering your medical insurance for you. I work for Appalachian State University, as does Nolan, and we're often told that we have a great medical insurance plan. Well, it's pretty good for a government entity, but when you look at what some other people have in private companies in other states, it's good, but it's not the best. So you really need to be able to know what the expectations are. How much is it going to cost for you to cover a partner, a spouse, or children? Do you have the ability to be sort of flexible with your work setting? Right now, most large companies, probably JK, I think you've said y'all are not even talking about going back to your office until the spring, correct?
Yeah, February 1st right now.
Yeah. And today, Fidelity said that no decisions will be made before June 1, 2021. So some of that flexibility and telecommuting, which seemed more appealing in the past, may not seem as appealing now. But I think the reality is that more and more employers are going this way because it's a great cost-cutting avenue for them. And it's also very attractive for them to be competitive as they try to hire talent. Would you get a car or a car allowance? Sherm, you mentioned that you're interested in sales. We have a company, TTI. They were on the first career meetup we did back in August with y'all. Their starting salary, I think, is around $45,000, but you get a car. You can do, I mean, that is your car. It's your car for work because you're doing sales and you're calling on clients. But having a car allowance and having somebody cover your insurance and your maintenance and your car payment is probably, for a new car, I mean, that's probably easily worth $700 or $800 a month. And you're going to get some type of mileage allowance. So that's a pretty sweet deal. Is a benefit allowing some type of subsidized support for training or education? For example, today with Fidelity, when they were talking about these customer service advocates, she said that you will get your, and I don't know the finance world, JK, you do. She mentioned 2 licensures that you would get, your Series 7 and your Series 63. I know Series 7 is a certified financial advisor. And Series 63, I think, is something around insurance and annuities, perhaps.
Yes, it's state license, and the series, you say the Series 7.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's securities license.
Okay, so they do a
Yes.
16-week training program, and half of that time is learning your job, and half of that time is you studying to be able to take these exams. So after you do their entry-level position, not only do you have a year of work experience, but you have these certifications that they want you to use in their company, but those are certifications you can take anywhere. Some companies are doing loan forgiveness, or they might say after a year being with us, we're going to pay $200 a month, for example, on a student loan. Unpaid time off I have a typo there, I called myself out, but we have had a few employers, especially before the pandemic, say, the job market's really tight. We want to hire young people. We think it's attractive to them to know that if they work here for a year, that then they could take maybe 2 weeks off to travel. And they're not going to be paid for that, but they have a job when they come back. And then if you have child care needs and also just elder care, you might be in a position where you're taking care of a family member. Those are things to think about. So benefits can be very varied, but the first 2 are pretty basic: holiday, vacation, sick days, and then at least your basic medical insurance. So when you are trying to figure out if you've been given a good package, it's kind of hard because each one is going to be a little different. So I think some questions that you have to that only you can answer is, what is really important to you? For me personally, I know what's important to me is flexibility. I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't want to have to punch in at 7:59 and punch out at 5:01 and only have like 1 hour for lunch and feel like I don't have any freedom. So being in a work environment where I'm trusted and where I'm held to a high standard is a place where I'm going to thrive. I know that's true for me. So that's where it's really important to know what is really core to you. And the other thing that's really important is knowing what you absolutely have to do. What bills do you have to pay? What financial obligations do you have? Can you get up and move to California, or are you a single child and you have an aging parent that no one else can take care of? So those are the types of questions that you have to answer in the long run. Some of the references that I wanted to share here, we did a career meetup back in the spring on salary negotiation, and it's out on YouTube, and I'll send this presentation so people can access it. But there are a couple of articles I found that I thought were really interesting. This one from Robert Half, which is sort of an HR consulting firm, on how to evaluate a compensation package. That's a really great one. I got this little magazine in with something else the other day, and there's an article here called The Power of Negotiation. And salaries are hard to negotiate. As I mentioned, many times they're going to be really set. But let me just give you an example that they shared here. If a job seeker, for example, accepts a starting salary that could have been $7,000 higher, and had this person negotiated the difference, that difference is going to compound over time. So let's say you take a job and you accept a starting salary of $50,000. And a year from now, you get a 10% raise, which is pretty unlikely, but let's just pretend you get a 10% raise. So now you are making $5,000 more. So now your salary is $55,000. But if you had a salary that started out at $53,000 and you got a 10% salary increase, now you're making $58,003, okay? And then the next year you get a 2%, or if you're a state employee, you get a 0.1% salary increase. But my point is, over time, wherever you start is the baseline for where you're going to go. So in this case, a $7,000 difference in a starting salary could equate to $650,000 to $1 million over one person's professional career. That's a pretty huge amount of money. So those are my little tips on salary negotiation and benefits. That one was a little shorter than the previous one. And I think part of the reason why is I just want to give you some nuts and bolts on what you need to think about. But what I would encourage you to do is, one, you don't need to make an answer. You don't need to give anybody who tells you they have to give you an answer, you have to give them an answer like by 8 o'clock the next morning. Personally, in my book, that's not somebody, unless I've been in communication with them for 2 or 3 days or weeks, that doesn't feel good to me. No employer should put pressure on you to make a decision like within 24 hours about taking a job.
Actually, Susan, if I can follow that up,
yes.
Exactly. When I was an executive recruiter, I would forbid my candidates from accepting the job when they were first called, because you're excited and you want to, right? But it's much better to say, thank you. Yes, I'm 100% sure this is what I want, but I just want to talk to my family and I just want to touch base. Nobody is going to rescind a job offer because you asked for 24 to 48 hours or longer. But it's much easier then to get you're settled down and think about the different things that they've offered and look at them, because they should be able to email them to you as well. Again, if there is a salary that you would like to negotiate, it's easy to call back and say, is there any wiggle room on that base salary? Again, nobody's ever going to get offended by somebody who's asking for more wiggle room, but you don't want to leave money on the table. Now, as an executive recruiter, I got paid more if my candidates got paid more, which was why I would not let them accept the job until I had talked to them. But I think it's a good key piece of advice for all of our students as well, because you want to have some time to calm down and to think, not in the heat of the moment. And like Susan said, anybody who's pushing you like that, be concerned.
Yeah. And you can think about negotiating other things, like maybe your start date or vacation days, or will I be assured that I can have a review within, at the 6-month point, and think about promotion then. And again, it's all going to be very dependent on who your employer is. But take time. Sometimes the first offer is the best job and the best offer. But if you have one offer, you will have other offers. So don't get overly zealous, and think that you'll never get another job. That's not going to be the case. I'm pretty confident of that. So Sherm, you have gotten the full experience here. You will be doing the next career meetup, just like we had Elijah start this one. But I'm curious if you've got any questions or comments, or any thoughts about anything at all that I've shared so far today.
No, thank you. Y'all hit all the points.
Okay.
I appreciate all of you.
Great. JK, Pierre, anything that you want to share before we wrap up this session?
Yeah, I'll go. And I said this in the breakout that if you're not using the Career Center, you should get your head examined. The Career Center is the real deal. I would not have gotten my job if I wouldn't have gone to the Career Center and went through the mock interviews. Some interviews I considered practice because I knew I didn't want to work at the company, but I just wanted to get those repetitions at practice in. But this is a real deal. I am a firm believer in Career Development Center. It could be the difference in landing a job and not having a job. And you guys have so much going for you. If I'm an employer and I'm looking at two candidates and one candidate just went to school and the other one also went to school, but that other candidate actually had a full-time job playing sports at a high level. He got up every morning, 5 o'clock, and went to the gym and worked out. Went to the study room and did his workout to practice. I mean, that's a lot of self-discipline. And so you have what it takes to be competitive in the job market. But the thing that you have to do is apply yourself and put yourself in a position to be seen and marketed. And you can do that in the Career Center.
Thank you, JK and Pierre.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Can I put a price tag on this information that you all are being given right now, man? And one thing that JP said that struck a chord in the breakout session, and she was really relating it to the internships and jobs fair, is in that setting, you won't find another setting, especially once you leave here, when you can be around multiple employers that are handing out multiple jobs, starting salaries $45,000 to $55,000. You won't be able to have access to people who genuinely care about you, your future, you being able to take care of yourself, your families, that sort of thing once you leave this university. Please take advantage of all the resources that you have here. And the biggest resource is the people, the folks in the Career Development Center, Nolan, who cares enough about you to set up this session, your coaches, academic advisors. Utilize the people that you have at your disposal, because once you leave here, you have to pay top dollar to get some of these resources that are being offered to you for free while you're at this university. So thanks everybody. And from everybody from the Career Development Center, thank you so much, Nolan. Again, thank you for putting all this together. JK, thank you for taking time out your day to join.
My pleasure, my brother.
Absolutely. And thanks everybody else.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Perry. I am with the Career Development Center, and tonight we are going to talk about resume basics. And resume really is your calling card. Sometimes it's the first thing an employer will see in relation to your work experience and your transferable skills. So resume writing is very important. It's a skill that you will take with you the rest of your life, because a resume really should be a living, breathing document. You don't want to wait until you're in a situation where you're looking for a job, trying to update it, then updating it consistently, and just in case some amazing opportunity pops forward. And trust me, amazing opportunities sometimes do just pop forward. So what I did here is, your resume really is to kind of give a feel of who you are as a person, as a worker, as someone who has performed a service for several different organizations. I popped my resume into this word cloud, and it's just wordclouds.com. It was free because I was trying to figure out what were the main things that were coming out of my resumes that I was conveying to a future employer. And I think it's interesting that the biggest one is students, right? Because that's important to me. In university, financial aid, because I did work for financial aid for many years. I do think it's funny because I got financial and district because I did live in the District of Columbia and I did work in the finance industry. But this is a good way to kind of get a read of what your resume is saying about you. It's also another great tip for your cover letter as well, to make sure that the words that you want to have focused are the words that are being focused. Okay. 20 seconds. That is how much time you have for someone to do the first review of your resume. 20 seconds. It's not a lot of time. So it's very important that a resume is very cleanly structured and easy to read, because the interviewers or the HR professionals or the recruiters, they don't have time to figure out whether or not you can do the job. The resume has to make it very clear for you that you are capable of doing this work. And that's how you get the interview. Okay, so this is a sample resume. A couple things I just want to point out because it's easier to see on the larger resume altogether. This right here, objective, education, related coursework, related experience, other experience, those are called headings. The information at the top is all of your personal information. This one happens to belong to Anita Career because we always think we're funny and we always think Anita Career, I need a career. I still think it's funny because the nutrition one used to be called I Need a Diet, but I changed it because I didn't think that was funny. I don't know if you guys think that's as funny as I do, but I thought that was hilarious. Okay, couple of things you want to remember. We are maximizing the space on the page. We're taking it to a 1/2 inch margin because it gives you a lot more room on the page and it maximizes the use of it. Also, pull something to the far right hand margin. In this case, as you can see, it's the dates that I've pulled to the far right hand. Some people like to put the city and state in the far right hand and keep the dates of employment down here. But what's nice about having something on the far right is it gives balance to the page and it makes it easier to read. People naturally read from left to right. So it's very important to make sure that it's easy for them to stay on top of the resume and read it quickly. This one is very well formatted. I want to also relate that the objective is optional. If you do not think that it's adding to your overall pitch towards this particular job, then don't put it in. Same with related coursework. Related coursework is a really great idea if there's something in the job description that you've done in coursework or classwork, but you have not done specifically on a job. That way that coursework can serve in lieu of experience. So you'd want to target it to the particular employer that you're applying to. Otherwise, it's not necessary if everything else you have in your regular experience. Okay, it's important when you're putting your name and your contact information that it's very easy to read. This should be the biggest thing on the page. The email needs to be a professional email. I always suggest your App State email because we spend a lot of money making sure that it's safe. It's also stays within your power within 1 year after you graduate. And it's also a great way to let employers know that it's a very safe email because it has the EDU tag at the end. With any email or any phone that you put on a resume, please make sure that it's something that you check often. You want to make sure that your voicemail is set up and that your voicemail is not full, especially if an employer is trying to reach you about an interview or setting up an interview. If you notice each one of these, Michelle Marketer, B Teacher, or Jody Intern, take up a different footprint of space on the page. Michelle Marketer has 1, 2, 3 lines that she takes from the top of that page. B Teacher has 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's got more wasted space on this side. I've seen resumes where this information is centered and it takes almost a quarter of the page. That is a waste of good quality resume space. If you're thinking about a resume, the first page is your beachfront property, but the first 2/3 is oceanfront. That is the prime real estate. That's where you want to get that important information. So I always think if you're already having trouble fitting everything on your resume, stick with the 2 lines. and it gives you more space. Again, that's why we do the shorter margins too, 1/2 inch, because it just gives you a lot more space. Okay, your education should stay at the top of your resume for about 3 years because it's serving in lieu of experience. So your education should always have this name, the school name, and the location. There's actually Appalachian Bible College and an Appalachian Law School. So that's why it's really important to make sure you designate which school it is. You want to have your full degree spelled out, Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts, whatever it may be, but spell it out. And then your actual major. You should also put the expected date of graduation. Some people just put the date in the future. This is dangerous because if you don't make it very clear, they may assume that you've already gotten your degree. So I do think using the expected date is a great way to make sure that that doesn't happen. If you've got a concentration or a minor, it can go under here as well. Any honors or awards, dean's list, chancellor's list, if you've gotten any scholarships related, please put them in there. Gold award for the Boy Scouts, no, Gold award for the Girl Scouts, Eagle Scout for the Boy Scouts. Those can also go up in here because they're kind of a lifelong achievement. You want to make sure to, if there's a school that you transferred from, if you earned a degree, like an associate's degree, yes, put that school on the resume. If you did not earn a degree from that school and you just transferred from one school to the next, you are not required to put that school on the resume. The choice is yours. It is always your choice because it's your resume. If you have a program that requires specific certifications, make sure the certifications are right underneath your education. You don't want to make an employer search for them, but they should be right there as well. Not as big perhaps, but in that same area. You do not want any information from high school anymore on your resume. After your first year in college, you're done. No more high school experience, no more high school accolades, honors, awards, or the school itself needs to be on the resume. Okay. Here are some of the headings that you can use. If you're going into a graduate program, research experience is awesome. If you have it, you can highlight it. Honors and awards, like we talked about. I like to use the related experience so I can bring up experience directly related to my major. I can focus it all at the top of the resume because again, we only have 20 seconds. So I want to put the best information up there, regardless of the date. Because then with the regular resume, you run in reverse chronological order, meaning the newest things are on top. But we're using the related experience lets you pull out specific experiences you want to highlight that are related to the job that you're applying for. And then you can list everything else, which is still very important and you should keep under other experience. So it's a great way to kind of pull out some of that experience and highlight it. But all of these can be used. I just warn, if you're going to use a language heading and you're going to say you speak a language, please be prepared to speak that language on live TV in the case of emergency. Otherwise, do not put it on your resume because it happens too many times where people say that they are fluent and they're not, and you have to be really careful with that. Okay, experience. The important thing with experience is you got to include the employer and organization name, where they're located, the dates for all of your experience, and your job title. So sometimes if you don't know what your job title is, if you're working at a store, you're probably a sales associate. Or, just ask your boss. There's probably some title that they have for payroll purposes. You want to use bulleted phrases with a strong action verb. We call those power words. As you can see in the example at top, we've got collaborated, implemented, played, immersed. Those are all great, strong power words to kind of give meaning and context to what we're trying to explain to a future employer. It's really important to include accomplishments, results, actions, and skills. So if you were awarded Employee of the Month, I want to see it. If you are somebody who truly motivates, your team and the fellow players, then say motivate teams to push past, perceived limits or to push past, how tired they are, whatever it may be. Talk about it, but put it in a clean, concise way. Do not list tasks only. I don't want to see a list of things that you do. You always want to make sure you have the month and the year. It can be a semester, that's fine. Semester in the year, say it's fall 2020, that is fine as well because it designates a period of time. But you always want to have the month in the year or the semester in the year. You don't want to just have years. You have to be consistent in your periods and tenses. So if you notice, this job ended. So these are all past tense power words. If this person was still working in this job, these would all be present tense. So instead of being past tense, which is collaborated, it would be changed to collaborate. Collaborate with locals in building a healthcare facility to serve over 1,000 families, right? That's present tense. Past tense is collaborated. It happened in the past. It's really important to check these, especially every time you switch a job, to make sure you've got the correct tenses. You want to stay away from phrases like responsibilities or duties. You do not use personal pronouns. So there's no I, me's, or my's at all on the resume. There are obviously in the cover letter, but not on the resume. You use bolding and italics to emphasize words. So you can see we bolded the name of the organization, but we used italics to highlight the job title. Whatever you choose to do, just be consistent. You want to do not over or under describe. You want to think about power word for who or what purpose and why, and give some details like this one. Collaborated with who? The locals. In doing what? Building a healthcare facility. And the detail is that to serve over 1,000 families, right? That is a good, strong, clean bullet. And that's the most important thing when building a resume, is creating a good, strong bullet. Okay. So creating a bullet. So tonight, if there's anything that you get out of this presentation at all, the best thing to remember is this slide right here. Creating a bullet is the power word, right? Who or what purpose, how or why resulting to, so you can help to create these. And what's nice is if you get a great bullet, you can kind of tweak it towards any sort of targeted job that you want to target your resume toward. Having the good, strong bullet sets the foundation. So this, as you can see, I color coded it. My power word is recruit, right? Who or what? I recruited volunteers from the community. For what purpose? Well, I was having them work with homebound elderly adults in Alzheimer's care respite programs. Why? Well, to provide relief for caregivers. And this was something actually off of my direct resume, because when I worked for a home health agency, I did this as part of our outreach in the local community. So it's a very powerful bullet because it tells exactly what I did. Recruiting volunteers is not easy, right? So if you have any volunteer work and you've gotten other people to help you, absolutely use the word recruit. You know, if you helped engage people, that's another power word. Fostered an appreciation for, another great one. Okay, so take a picture of this slide. It's very important. Tips, you want to be consistent and easy to read and follow. You want to make sure it's easy. Okay, reverse chronological order unless you use that related experience, which is my little trick. You want to maximize the space on the page. Remember, we talked about those narrow margins, no big white spaces. You want to keep your font no smaller than 10 point. So that means bigger than 10 point. Try to keep it smaller than a 12 point. Otherwise it starts to look weird. No script fonts because they don't print well and they're hard to read. So don't use them. Spell out any acronyms, especially if it's something that most people would not be understanding. Like CPR, most people understand what CPR is, but some of the other acronyms can be a little bit more difficult. You want a separate page for your references. References always go on a separate page. If your resume is 2 pages, go ahead and put your first initial, last name high up on in the corner of the second page, so that if it does get separated, they know who it belongs to. You want to have consistent formatting in the use of bold, italics, and size. So it's got to be consistent. So if you're detailing volunteer work, it can look just like you're detailing a job with the same use of the bold and the italics to highlight it. Do not overuse or repeat the same adjectives, adverbs, or verbs. And I also want to say never ever repeat a bullet. You don't want to have the same bullet appear in more than one job. That's a waste of space, and it looks like you didn't try. So if you're having difficulty, make an appointment with your career coach, because we can help you with this. But you also want to make sure you're not using all of the same exact power words. I've seen some resumes where every word begins with the word assist. That gets boring. If you want to engage the reader to read further, and if they see all the same word, they're not going to be engaged. And again, no need to add the school if you did not earn a degree from that school. And again, that's a personal choice. If you played another sport or you did something with the student government or another club at the other school that you want to highlight, then absolutely keep it on there. Okay, so that is the end of our presentation. I really encourage you to meet with your career counselor for assistance with resume writing. We have the Career Studio every Monday through Thursday from 2 to 4. I personally, Jennifer Perry, have a Beaver College of Health Sciences and an athletics resume clinic every Tuesday from 11 to 1. And you can make an appointment on Handshake to meet one-on-one with your career coach, and they can help you create and detail your resume as it should be. And if you need any help, you can always reach out. Okay. And complete your Handshake profile. It's very important. It'll do some of the work for you. You already have a login. This is how you're going to make an appointment to meet with us. So get used to Handshake and start using it, because it has the same algorithms that Spotify has. So if you do a couple job searches, it'll remember not only the jobs that were pulled up, it'll also remember the jobs you opened and looked into, so it can better filter your results. So Handshake is a very robust tool and you should be using it. And there you go. There's all our contact information. I want to thank you all for coming, and thanks so much. Bye-bye. Hello, my name is Jennifer Perry. I am with the Career Development Center. I am the career coach for the Beaver College of Health Sciences. I'm the liaison to athletics, the graduate school, and wellness. Tonight we're going to talk about the career prep in a virtual world. As I call it, sort of starting those professional habits now while we're still in school, especially now as we live in a more virtual world. It's important to understand what the expectations are as we move forward. So let's begin. So online etiquette, LinkedIn, and job fairs. How to make all of this work for you. Okay, so online etiquette. It's really important when you are on a Zoom call to think about what you're presenting to the outside world, because we are inviting people into our homes or our offices. With the pandemic, it's a little bit more often in our homes. So you want to kind of review your desk, make sure that you have a pen and paper, make sure that everything's where it should be. But you also want to look at yourself, make sure that you are showing your shoulders and your head, right? So that people can see emotion on your face, especially for an interview. But also if you're having a meeting or something like that, it's a nicer way because you feel a little bit more engaged. Your lighting, you want to make sure, especially with some of these cameras, that sometimes with the lighting, if you're stepping back too far, you're absolutely in shadow and you cannot be seen at all. It's important to make sure that that doesn't happen. So check your lighting. Your background is very important. You want nothing in the background that you wouldn't want a future employer or someone else, a boss or a professor or faculty or coach or someone else to see. So again, take that 360 review before you get on. It can happen to any one of us. And you also want to check your volume. It's sometimes if you've been listening to something else on your computer, it can be very loud. So you want to double check it. When you're in a Zoom meeting, it's also just important to just get a good idea of, what your expectations are. I do like the audio only with video because we all have taken advantage of turning our video off. It's something we can talk about. Zoom best practices. I really think it's a good idea to have your camera on unless it's a very large group. You should use your best judgment. But when you are in classes with faculty or you're interacting with staff or other people on campus, these could be future reference writers for you. These could be future people who help you connect with future job opportunities. So showing your professionalism now, again, creates that sort of protocol for the future. You have a better understanding of what your expectations are. That being said, if it is a meeting, a smaller group meeting, try not to eat or drink unless the group norms have said that that's okay. Sometimes at the beginning of a meeting, you can find out, especially if it's a new group that you're meeting with, like sometimes adjusting some of those group norms. Also, if you're starting a new job and you're unsure, ask your coworkers or your boss. They'll be happy to tell you what is and is not acceptable. Because bosses expect the cameras to be open. Some faculty expect the cameras to be open and they'll make it very clear, while others may not make it clear, but again, the grading may reflect it. So it's always best to know. Mute your microphone at all times unless you're speaking. That one is just an obvious one. We've all been on the call where you can hear things in the background. If possible, update your Zoom ID meeting to show your full name or your pronouns if that is something you want to do. It just makes it easier for people in the room to know who you are, especially if your camera's off. You upload a good headshot for when you need to have your camera off. My headshot was taken with my iPhone. Anything with an iPhone 7 or above has a portrait mode, which will take a beautiful headshot. And have your friends do it because they'll be very flexible and let you take a million pictures until you find the one that you like, right? Because you want to find one that you like. It's going to be out there for the world to see. Go ahead and fix it. If you do need to step away from your computer, please turn off your video. I'm going to remind you of this one. If you do need to step away from your computer, please turn off your video. We all have roommates, pets, some people have children, spouses, family members, random various people around. It's just a polite thing to do. If you watch the news, you want to make sure that you don't do some things that very smart people have done in the last couple of weeks. Turn those cameras off if you're stepping away. And before your meeting, you should arrive at least 3 minutes before the meeting, okay? And there's absolutely no reason to be late, especially if it is a Zoom meeting and you're sitting either in your office or someplace else. Try to be a few minutes early. If it's an interview, I always suggest go on an hour before. Just make sure that hopefully nobody else is using the same link for another interview. or you can check it at a time at night where you know that no one's going to be on there, and you can take a look and make sure that your setup is good, your lighting is good, where you're planning on doing it. That's fine as well. I've always done that prior to any Zoom interview, just to make sure that I'm 100% set. And I always pick a time where I think that link is not going to be being used, just in case. Okay. So LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a professional networking site, professional connections. So this is where every single teammate, every single classmate, faculty member, staff member you interact with, absolutely positively Pierre Banks and myself need to be in your LinkedIn profile. Okay. What does it do? LinkedIn creates a network, whereas if I connect directly with you, we are a first level connection. But now you have become a second level connection to the 800 plus people I have in my network. Additionally, you've now become a third level connection to all of my 800 connections, people in their network. And it's not a popularity contest, but what it does do is it opens up access to other people that you normally wouldn't have. That's why you want to diverge outside of just your field, because you never know who people know. One of the best examples I can say of having a strong LinkedIn profile with a great group of connections, I was an executive recruiter, that's why I have so many, is that because of my connections, I was able to get the private email of the CEO of Lowe's, and I was able to contact him directly about an issue. There is power in knowing certain things and certain people. So connect with me, connect with Pierre, connect with your faculty, friends, classmates, coaches, dentists, doctors, supervisors, career coaches, supervisors at maybe even some of those high school jobs, or maybe even some of those high school mentors. And because these are going to be people who can maybe help you. Your classmates are important, because in 10 years, if you're looking for a job, wouldn't it be awesome to find a classmate living in that city who's also got a similar degree as you? Because they're going to be best able to help you. So LinkedIn is the way to do this. It's very important to start now and start building up these people. You don't have to do anything else, just start building them into your network. Okay, job fairs. They are an opportunity to meet with employers seeking to hire people. No time in your life will you ever get an opportunity to meet with over 100 employers seeking to hire people right then and there. It is a huge opportunity. Last year, we had 130 plus employers. I think there were over 12,000 separate jobs with a starting salary and averaging around $45,000 to $55,000 a year. Our internships, the average pay was $15. So there are lots of opportunities. There's no reason not to go to these job fairs. Now that they're virtual, it's even easier, because you can think and you can be very prepared and schedule your interview with, or your touch base with that person from the employer, so you know exactly what you're going to say and what you're going to do. So take advantage. You want to review the employers list first, because the best example I can give is Mission Health came, and a bunch of my healthcare management students and nurses all went to visit Mission Health, but unfortunately Mission Health was looking for IT professionals. But because people had not been reading, none of the IT students came to visit Mission Health when they were here on campus. So again, don't assume by the name that you understand what type of jobs they're hiring for, because it can vary. You also want to research the various company and job postings. It's not always obvious. And show your enthusiasm and preparedness, because if you know that those job postings are out there and you can ask a question, they know you've done your research. It shows that you're on top of your game, and that's important. And make a plan. With a job fair, just make a plan. If you're scheduling it, know who you're talking, you know, who the recruiter is. It puts it on the Handshake website, who the recruiter will be, what time you're scheduled to talk to them. It's a great opportunity to ask them those great questions, find out about their hiring practices. You know, what are the ideal, I always think a great question to ask is what special skills or qualities that you're looking for that we haven't had a chance to talk about, right? It's a great way to kind of connect with somebody quickly. It's also a great interview question at the end. Okay. An elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is basically a way to introduce yourself in a quick and efficient manner, especially at an opportunity where you meet somebody who has the opportunity to help you. A job fair would be exactly that type of opportunity. Or you meet an alumni at one of your events and they ask you about yourself. What you want to think to do is it's a little bit of past, a little bit of present, a little bit of future. And you want to have a strong elevator pitch as to who you are and what brings you here, what you're doing, and what do you want to do in the future. Okay. And since they don't have your resume, you want to add some of that information in there that they're not going to know. They're going to know nothing about you. This is very similar to the question in an interview that says, tell me about yourself. Difference being is they have your resume. They do know some things about you. So you got to frame it differently. So you want to use this at a career fair or an expo. You can use it as your LinkedIn summary, professional associations, any networking that you're doing, or interviews. Again, like I said, tell me a little bit about yourself. The only difference would be that you'd spend less time talking about individual jobs and talk more about your personal and what things make you excited and things that you get excited about and why you want to work for that organization. The elevator pitch, it does not have to be intimidating. It's just you being comfortable talking about your skills, abilities, experiences, and education, which is also what the resume does, which is also what the cover letter does, and which is also what the interview does. And everything we do in the Career Development Center is to help you fine tune these things so that you can talk about yourself confidently. Okay. So again, it's a little bit of past, present, future. It's 30 seconds to 1 minute recap of who you are and what you do. Utilize the research on the organization and position to determine the emphasis. If you say in 5 years, I want to be working at your organization in this position, again, that's going to really highlight that you've done your research. You want to be enthusiastic and persuasive. So practice on your friends, your family, your coaches, your classmates, your faculty. Practice with me. Practice on Big Interview. Just go on Big Interview and record yourself practicing your elevator pitch. It does not have to be exactly the same each time, but you want to remember the key points that you want to convey. Otherwise, it's going to be hard because otherwise you're going to sound too much robotic trying to memorize something that's too long, but you also want to be able to flow and have conversation. So just think about the key points that you want to make to someone that you meet. And again, the research will help you sort of focus that if you're trying to, do it for a job fair or an interview. And the biggest thing I can tell people is be enthusiastic, okay? They can teach you to do all sorts of different things. They cannot teach you to care and to be pumped and excited. And they want to see you pumped and excited and that you care, because that no one can train you how to do. So that's what employers are looking for. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. I encourage all of you to make an appointment with your career coach. We can help you with these elevator pitches. We can help you develop your LinkedIn profile, and we can help you better understand the tips and tricks to interviewing online, to job searching, and all those different things that come with this different sort of set of rules we have going on. And I look forward to speaking to all of you individually. Take care. Thanks.